Greetings, World of Monsters viewers out there, the true Monsterites, and welcome back to this series. Well, it's only the second episode, and it's been a long time since the first episode. If you remember that, it was searching out the Wendigo. Now, how these series work is I hunt out for the best miniature of a monster that you guys choose down in the comments below. I choose the one that's got the most thumbs up, so either put in a comment for the next one, or find the one that has the monster that you like and give it a thumbs up, as that's the one I will choose to hunt down next. So I hunt down the best monster miniature that I can find, and then I choose one, I buy it, and then I paint it up and give it life, and add it to my Bestiary collection of all monsters from A to Z. That's why I'm searching out for the best sculpts, the best models, the best minis out there. I look for 28 to 32 millimeter scales, and this time it was the werewolf. Now, before I continue, I gotta thank my patrons, as always, for keeping this channel going and giving it extra bit of boost of adrenaline and life. So the suggestion that I found with the most likes in the previous video, which was the Wendigo, and do check that one out as there's only one other episode so far in the series, so it was for the werewolf. I looked at over 100 models, 100 sculpts or so out there, and I chose my favorite kind of top 20 at the time, as this video, as I will mention again, has taken over almost a year, more than a year, I'm not sure, somewhere around there. It took a long time just because, well, I'll explain and get to that later. The werewolf I was looking for is just that brutal, traditional type of werewolf without that extra armor or stylism, just a basic, awesome werewolf. That's the werewolf I was looking for, so you'll get a better understanding for that as I show you the minis that I've looked over. So let's take a look at all these spicy werewolves I came across and which one I chose as number one. And remember, leave a suggestion down below for the monster you want me to hunt out next, or find a comment already suggesting it and give it that thumbs up, because the more thumbs a comment gets, that's the one that's going to win, and that's the monster we're going to hunt out. So let's check these out. First off, I would like to start with some honorable mentions, beginning with this Bones werewolf, and I'm presenting this one here as it didn't make the list, but it is a great option for those of you on a budget. Reaper miniatures, and particularly Reaper Bones miniatures, are some of the cheapest miniatures you can find out there. And if you were wondering, I did make a Hero Forge werewolf. Hero Forge is a website where you can go and make your own miniature to a certain degree. Cool thing about it is that you can pose it, you can customize it, and now you can even color it. Very cool feature, but the sculpt itself is just not cool enough to make it into the top, well, 20 or so. And I had to shout this little fella out, as he was just one of the most original ones that I could find of werewolf miniatures. This little almost werewolf pup. Very cool, and lots of character. And speaking of just awesome miniatures, I just had to throw this one in here as it's a wonderful, exceptional model. I love it. It's not what I'm looking for here in this specific hunt, but this sculpt, this model is absolutely awesome. And here are the top 17 werewolf miniatures that I found out. Again, these were selected out of many more. I'm not sure if it was 100, maybe 50, 60. I'm not sure how many miniatures I finally looked at, but it was many. Keep in mind that it isn't necessarily a model or toy hunt, and so the size I'm keeping an eye out for are 28 to 32 millimeter miniatures, so that everything stays in a certain scale. I would also like to take this moment to point out that a lot of these sculpts are wonderful sculpts. They're great, but they would certainly be presented much better larger. When looking at certain poses and positions of the werewolf, one has to take into mind what the visibility will be when it's at such a tiny scale. With some of these, you will see the digital sculpts, not the physical productions or prints. Therefore, it's hard to visualize what exactly or how that miniature will exactly look like in final physical form. So I did take all that into account, and hence I picked these top 5 as my pick. Before we continue to the top 5, go ahead and pause this video for a moment if you like, and please just go ahead and choose your top 3 or your top favorite werewolf miniature, and let's see if we'll come down to the same conclusion. I did want to quickly mention that I do own this one. This werewolf right up here is from Village Attacks, the board game, and when I first got this werewolf, it's actually from an expansion, I loved it. I love the hulking werewolf. I love how the bottom part of it is smaller than the top, and the top is really exaggerated, not in a cartoony way, but in just a hulking, Mr. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll kind of way, and it is a nice big mini. I'll certainly compare it and show you guys what it looks like with the one that I will finally choose. And the reason why I didn't choose this one, well, it's too specific. I wanted that more traditional werewolf as a representation because this is a miniature collection from A to Z every monster. So if I want to represent one monster one time, one specific one, I wanted to sort of as best to represent that type of monster as possible without any sort of confusion or ambiguity to it. And I think this one is awesome, but it just obviously has something a little bit extra to it that you won't often see on a werewolf. And I am sort of biased with it, so I'm not even sure if it should have appeared in the top 17, but I do still really like the concept here. So here are the top 5 that I picked. There is a lot that I love about this sculpt right here. One, it's not completely 100% covered in fur, at least not large fur. It's got some of that shorter furred, revealed muscular body parts, and the head and face sculpt is almost perfect. I think what finally swayed my decision at the end was that it has a certain stylistic approach to it. Hence you see the larger top area and then the really thinned out waist and things like that. So it's a little bit stylized, and I think that's what changed my mind. Next one, I do like the one in the foreground, but I really liked the one on the left side. It's almost perfectly what I was looking for. I think this one is a wonderful miniature, but as a larger sculpt, it would just be better. As a, let's say, 5-inch and larger model, it would just appear better. With a tiny miniature that appears 1 to 1.5 inch, a lot of the detail here would not have that exposure that it deserves. Here's a digital one, and I couldn't find a physical form anywhere of this one on the internet, so I just had this to go off of. And again, depending on the size and print of this miniature, it would depend how much of that detail would go through. Everything's pretty awesome. I personally would go with the one on the top right, as he has the open mouth. I like his positioning. It's more aggressive. I guess the negatives would be, it's not a bad thing. He's a little too hulking. He seems a little bit too wide, just a bit more extreme than your usual werewolf, which is totally okay. But maybe I was looking for something a little bit more classic or realistic. So let's keep going with that. And so we move on to my second favorite choice, which was this one. All in all, the concept isn't all that striking, but especially when I saw this side of the silhouette of the werewolf, it was pretty much exactly what I was looking for. There's nothing dramatic in the pose, but it is well positioned and it just looks great. I do like the whole arc in the neck, and it's pretty much that werewolf I was looking for. But I think my number one beats it in everything just a little. Again, I could go with any of these 5. I would really just have to see them all physically, but off of what I had to go with, this is my number one. Let's see if it's the one you guys chose. So if you didn't choose yet, pause the video and see which one I might be choosing or which one is your favorite. And let's see if we sync up. So here's my number one choice. And again, I couldn't find it anywhere in printed physical format, but I did contact the company that does produce this one on Etsy, and they did print out and show me examples of actually all 4 of them. I was initially heading for the first one as I like the position, and to be honest, I really like having the open paw right there, the open hand in the front. I like having that in the miniature. It's just a cool thing to have there and to paint up. But then looking at the side profile of Werewolf A, it seemed a little bit awkward. The positioning wasn't bad. It's just then I started looking at B, and B has the ferocity. It has everything I want. It just doesn't have a open hand. I see the left one's a little bit open, but all in all, that positioning is just awesome. When I did see Werewolf C printed out, I started thinking about that one as well. So I was kind of in the middle of B and C, but I finally decided on B, and so that's the one I went with, and that's the one I ordered. So now that you've seen all the options and my choice, I would like to hear which one was your favorite, as there is no right or wrong. It's just really fitting with your fancy, and maybe I'll just reconsider for the future. We'll see once I receive the one that I chose. So without further ado, let's go check it out right on arrival and right upon its unboxing. This is no knife, nor is it a miniature sword. It is indeed a pen. It shall have to do. I also found this mini as well as other great ones more recently, but that's after already making a decision and starting the painting process. Well, you know, the safest way is going from behind, so we'll get started right there. Haha, not bad at all. I wasn't actually expecting to use this, but sure works. Oh yes, a box inside a box. One of those old tricks. Ooh, look at that. It's so cloudy in there. What is these? Thank you. These models, non-toxic plastic. Okay, we'll take a look at that. If I do say so myself, this must be the most enlightened werewolf I have ever have the pleasure of meeting. Perfect size, perfect size. It's not too big. I was a little bit worried. Oh, what's going on here? I like the shape to it, the side shape to it. It's better than just a plain, flat, edged base. There's a little siding to it. I do like that. It's a bit more ornate. Let's see what we'll have to work with here. Well, alrighty, folks. I'm going to take a closer look at this. Then I'll take some nice shots for you to check out. And I do like the weight to it. You see, this whole thing was quite a journey. It's been almost a year since I hunted down the werewolf I wanted for my Bestiary collection. And well, throughout that whole period, I've been painting this guy off and on. I found this mini through a seller on Etsy that prints out minis they have gained access to. At around $10, I thought it was a great deal as I've printed minis in the past and paid much more. These are printed with supports which then are snapped and cut away, which is done by the seller. I've never dealt with remnants of this as I was using Shapeways in the past to print my minis. Shapeways is a big company with some of the best printers in the industry. Their prints were always very clean and I don't think they even required supports, but I'm not that knowledgeable of their tech. All in all, the mini arrived without issues, but it did require cleanup. More than I would have liked, and the tricky thing with this resin was that if a bit wasn't sliced away carefully enough, it would snap off under the pressure, leaving an indentation. All in all, I got him primed and ready, and as mentioned here, set along this other werewolf as well as a couple character minis from Jaws of the Lion for size comparison. Other minis that I would go on to work alongside Wolfie here. This paint job was something. I'm sure many artists out there will understand the certain type of frustration that can overwhelm you when you've set out to create something to the best of your ability. Not just another sketch or mid-priced commission, but something you want to regard as your best work, your masterpiece of sorts. That's where this project got me, and got me strong as I set out to give this werewolf a realistic color scheme based on actual wolf furs. But then I proceeded to experiment with more color and different aspects of applying it, as I've seen some of the top mini painters out there do. This hurled me into a spiral of tedious painting followed by constant contemplation on the piece. I painted for hours at times while took breaks and got busy with other things that pulled me away for weeks sometimes. Part of what I like about working for a client or set approach is the direction you have. Freedom is great, but when you get lost in seeing all the possibilities your creativity introduces and struggle to choose the best one for yourself for that moment, things can quickly end up being quite the opposite, creating a mental prison of subtle torture powered by procrastination and confused drive. This hunt for the greatest mini project, hobby, is one I have much love for as a concept, but something I find following through challenging. This is certainly a personality factor and how quote-unquote seriously your approach is, but aside from that, minis are just one of those physical things that you have to see in your hand, compare with others you own, to fully understand the aesthetics that an image online is limited on portraying. And aside from this aspect, predicting in your mind's eye which of these minis will best come to life with paint and color, and which choice of color, in the end this is a discussion of perfection. And from what I've learned, perfection to the perceiver is never constant. Therefore, this werewolf will be the best mini sculpt out there to you or me, but that opinion may change at any point, and even as I say this, I cannot fully acknowledge that it is the best or my favorite pose, especially not after months of working on it, off and on. I've considered sculpting my own minis and painting them, which I have started in the past, and that just may be the best route to return to, as even those over time will end up not appearing as the greatest sculpts out there, but at least the creations will be fully mine. Anyway, I may have veered a little deeper there than anticipated considering how light the subject is, but I hope you've enjoyed the brief trip with me, and all in all, I can say that it's still a work I'm proud of. The journey was more experimental than what I thought I was getting ready for, but that's just another lesson of trying out new things here and there, because if you don't, you may just end up testing new grounds on an artwork that was maybe not meant for it. I think I'll keep the collection going, this series, All monsters from A to Z in best mini format and coverage of color I can achieve. Any mini can be replaced at any time, a rule I must apply for myself, maybe just to keep a trickle of sanity while I go through these processes that probably many would argue I approach too intensely, hence I may just replace this bad boy with another, maybe even one from this list, and apply a more realistic or more heavily influenced by actual wolves color scheme. So if you enjoy this, do stick with the channel as updates on past minis will be presented only in the following mini hunt videos with a new monster and a new mini. Hence here's an update from my last top hunted mini, the Wendigo. As a viewer mentioned, and I did space it, there should be more red, more blood around its brutally disfigured areas. Therefore I did apply this as well as ever so slightly improve the daggers. I also finished up the other werewolf to a lower degree of quality, though still very satisfactory, and unfortunately applied a varnish not carefully enough to it. As for the minis I believe I did the best on, I do not apply varnishes. I might sometimes apply it to the base alone, but not to any of the points of interest themselves. Note to the mini painters out there, or even other artists that use varnish. From what I know from what I've worked with so far, all varnishes leave a shine, no matter how flat they are proclaimed to be. This reflectiveness can at times really ruin your hard work, distorting and displaying your colors in a very unnatural way. I've seen this with my sketches, and with minis, it is crucial to understand how your varnish will behave on your work. On certain artworks, such as my acrylic paintings, I like to apply a heavy, glossy quality varnish because it actually helps with the contrast and presentation of color. But then again, it's also what you're looking for. But with the three-dimensional tiny form of minis, in short, shininess on miniatures makes them lose visible details and gives off a plastic, cheap feel. Some varnishes that are a little bit more glossy than the flatter ones, such as the satin ones, may actually look better on certain concepts such as very armored figures or futuristic. But if you're unsure, the safest way to go is to just not varnish or to be extremely light and distant and careful with it. And this is not to say that there isn't a place for glossiness, such as on eyeballs and saliva, but certainly not on subjects that are not meant to appear wet all the time. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my choices and work, and again, if you would like to see my future decisions and updates pertaining to this werewolf or any other monster mini I may have found a better replacement for, be sure to follow along with my video releases by subscribing and hitting that bell button to be better notified in case you're following a lot of channels out there. I have been Monster Master Arthur, and don't forget to leave a comment on what monster to hunt for next, or thumb up someone else's comment, as the suggestion with the most likes will be the monster I hunt for next, and therefore the next installment in the series. Or let me know if you think I should be sculpting my own, and maybe how interested you'd be in seeing my past work on that. So let's go check it out right at arrival, right at the unboxing. Wait, this is no sword. It is no miniature sword or knife. It is indeed a pen. A nice little pen indeed. This is no miniature sword. It is not a... It is indeed a pen. What a lovely pen. It'll have to do. It is indeed a pen. What a lovely pen. Let's go at it. It is indeed a pen. I can use this pen still. We shall write all over this box. This is no sword or knife. This is indeed a pen. It will work. Let's do it. This is indeed no pen. And right at its unboxing. This is indeed not a pen. This is no knife, nor miniature sword. It is indeed a pen. It shall have to do. This is not a miniature sword. It is not a knife either. It is right at the unboxing. This is no pen. I mean, it is a pen. It's no knife. It's not a sword. That joke. I'm out of here. Let's check it out.